The KRGS Doors Show, proudly brought to you by KRGS Doors. For all your shopfront roller shutters, roller grills, folding closures and bifold doors, visit www.krgsdoors.com.au. Welcome to the KRGS Doors Podcast. I'm your host, Drew Blackman. The aim of our podcast is to talk to cool people with cool stories, whether it be our suppliers, customers, staff, other business owners, or people from different walks of life, and get to know them a bit better. If you're interested in coming on, drop us a line or email, or connect with us via Facebook, and we can have a chat to see what we can do. Today, on the 21st episode of the KRGS Doors Podcast, I'm joined by KRGS Doors Managing Director Clayton Blackman and former NRL player turned media personality Joel Caine. If you haven't heard of Joel, you must be living under a rock. Joel was a former St George Dragon and West Tigers first grader, who then turned his hand to media, working on Channel 9, then 2GB Radio. These days, Joel has his own drive show between 3 and 6 weekdays with Bryan Fletcher on your AM dial 1170 SEN. Please welcome to the podcast, Mr. Joel Caine.
If this doesn't turn you on, folks, you haven't got a switch.
Joel, thank you very much for joining us on the podcast today. What is the Joel Caine story?
Very confusing story, let me tell you that much, Drew and Clayton. I went to, I think it was about 9 or 10 schools. So my dad was first on scene, or amongst others, for the Anita Cobby murder, you may remember, many years ago. So he was in the cops, and after a while he dived out of the cops and bought pubs and those sorts of things. So we lived in, Leichhardt, Jellicoe and Newbridge and Blaney and Bonny Hills, North Haven, Port Macquarie. I came down to Sydney as a 15-year-old, and you probably heard that story before, where a mate of mine and I from Taree come down, and he trialled really well and I trialled really bad, and I got the start and he didn't, and that was because they mucked up who they thought they were watching.
You can name drop that, mate.
Yes, I can. They were going for this guy who was a young Dragons fan. He was most unhappy about the fact that he went home without being picked, and he should have, because he was the best player there, and his name was Danny Badiris. So there you go. And sliding doors, that gave me the opportunity. And I suppose without that mistake from the Dragons, not only would I have not have played first grade, I most likely wouldn't have had the opportunities to go into the media, which I did, because the reason I sort of started getting into the media, I ran into a fellow called Matt Tripp, and he's since sold a number of betting organisations, etc. But I was invited to a luncheon, and I was just having a few chats like I am with you blokes right now, and he rang me up the next day and said, mate, I want you to jump on this program for me. We bought this asset. It was an asset called Thursday Night Live on Channel 1 HD at the time, and my role was to be the spokesman for Sportsbet. And I sat in the corner, and I was pretty bloody hopeless, to be honest with you. And I don't know if anything's changed since then, but that's what happened. And sometimes you need a bit of luck to go your way, and I most certainly had that. But equally, you need to be prepared, and thankfully that once got given the opportunity, we sort of kicked on a little bit.
In the right place at the right time.
Tell me about your story, boys.
KRGS Doors, mate, we've been in business now for 13 years. We celebrated our 13th year this year. I've been in the roller grills and shutters industry for 31 years. Okay. It's a family business. We've got 3 generations. We're here at Preston's in Sydney. We manufacture grills and shutters all over Australia and supply overseas as well.
Beautiful.
We employ 16 people currently. But, mate, just a small family business just trying to have a crack.
A couple of good guys done well, hey?
That's all we're doing, mate. Yeah, and we love our sport. We're obviously we're massive Dragons fans.
Yep.
But yeah, we love our sport, mate. And any type of sport we're involved with rugby league, with some sponsorship, and also with motorsport. We used to sponsor Erebus, but we're pretty involved with Speedway currently. But you just going back there, Joel, on your life. You said your father was on in the police. Was he based at Blacktown then?
He was, yes. He was based at Five Dock for a while, Blacktown, Parramatta, I think, maybe for a while. So he was based in and around there. And as I said, he was amongst others first on site. But clearly, it was a horrific time.
Yeah, of course.
In Australia at the time.
My oldest daughter's just joined the cops.
Right.
Not long ago. So and it hurts me when you say about that. I have heard that story before. In regarding Danny Badiris, and it obviously being Dragons fans, mate, it hurts. It hurts when I hear that when they've missed out on him.
Yeah, you know what, to be honest though, whilst it was sliding doors for me, it was probably sliding doors for him. Like, you have to ask the question that if he goes to the Dragons, does
Would he
he
have
become
represented?
a player, without having the influence of, the Andrew Johns. And Matthew Johns to push him along. So,
yeah.
At the time he was clearly devastated, but I think both of us would agree that neither would change anything, for what happened that day, because clearly it worked out pretty decent for him. I think he retired, and at the time, I think Gallen might have went past him, but at the time he was the most capped captain of New South Wales.
Yeah.
So, Dally M award winner, Australian dummy half, all those. So, there you go.
He gave his all every time he played, mate. You started rugby league in Taree, mate?
No, he was in Taree. I was in, my first game was with Penrith Waratahs.
Okay.
Had a grand final victory over Mount Druitt, the under-7s, and then there was a long time between drinks. I didn't see a grand final for a while, and actually ended up at the Dragons winning a Jersey Fleet competition with Adam Peake played first grade, Lee Murphy played a little bit of first grade, Craig Stapleton played a bit of first grade. No one really from the Manly side that we played, but this goes to show how far rugby league's gone, and this is a positive thing. This was back in 1996, and the Polynesian influence hadn't yet arrived in the manner it had. Like, we had, the Pilatua boys were running around in the 18s and 19s at that time, but beyond, Tony and Frank, there wasn't really that Polynesian influence. And, to be honest with you boys, I've got no doubt that in today's day and age, I don't think I would have made first grade, because they're superior athletes and they're bigger and stronger and all those sorts of things. And as I say, with the two teams in the grand final, to not have a Polynesian player in that grand final, that's just unheard of in this day and age.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even especially in the juniors, you look through and your kids play rugby league as well, and so do mine. And that influence is huge coming through even the junior ranks, the 6s and 7s and 8s now. They're all out there playing.
Yeah, that's right. And just my youngest son, Pax, he wants to play dummy half, and sort of that's not really natural to me. And I actually, in hindsight, wish I had have also gone down that path and played dummy half like Danny Medeiros, because he was actually a pretty average centre and a pretty average 5'8" back in the day when we were coming through the ranks at Port Macquarie and Taree. He moved to dummy half, and my young son wants to play there. And I think that, with these Polynesian players and, these wingers and fullbacks and the power and the size and the strength and, maybe the best way forward for kids like my son is the dummy half position, like the Damien Cooks and those sorts of things. So he's getting the tackles up and he's making his tackles and doing those sorts of things, where I was just a try scorer as a kid, and you didn't really have to be a gun tackler, but clearly if you want to play dummy half, you do.
What was your playing weight as a winger back in the day?
In the NRL?
Yes.
Well, my first season was at fullback, 81 kilos, and that was another thing. With this new rule change, you're seeing teams having to retreat, so it's very much like touch football. And a player like Sean Johnson, who you could argue his career was done and dusted, 18 months ago, with this set restart, he's a former touch footballer.
Correct.
So he's got teams on the back foot picking him off. So, Pappenhausen, former touch footballer, Brimson, former touch footballer, Caleb Ponga, these sorts of guys. Ponga, all these sorts of guys, and they're really benefiting from the new rule. But to answer your question, you can get away with that at fullback, 81 kilos. On the wing, 81 kilos, different story. So, unless I was making it as a fullback and I wasn't in the class of Ryan Pappenhausen and those types of players, nor Alexander Brimson. So that's why I think that, like the Dinosaurs, the player of my sort of time's probably redundant. Even like a player like Michael Gordon, who hadn't retired so long ago. I think someone like Michael Gordon, he just doesn't get a start these days.
No. Imagine being a winger now like Vinavalu, Rava, Seaver. Mate, how would you like to be marking?
Yeah, I was at the Sydney Cricket Ground last year for NRL Nation. We had this promo event on, and I took a photo with the boys. There was me, right, George Tafua, and Suliasi Vinavalu. No, sorry, me, George Tafua, and Mike Acevo.
Yeah.
And then I just wrote the caption, the evolution of the
winger.
It was just unbelievable. And that's in the space of 15 years,
Yeah, absolutely.
Mate, you were the only player to play the last game for St George Dragons before they merged, and then the last game for the Balmain Tigers before they merged. Do you think you've had an influence in them wanting to join other teams?
Do I have an influence in stopping things or anything? No, but I was also the first player in the West Tigers, so that was starting something. I don't know. What happened was I had just cracked first grade, and
at Saints,
I played at Saints. Yeah, played 3 games, and life was great. You may recall 1998 when
we fell apart.
We fell apart, but we also Canterbury scored on the 7th tackle. That bombed us out. That made for Stephen Clark leaving Cogra Oval.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah, I remember that.
That was all sorts of drama.
Semi-final.
Canterbury actually went on to the grand final. Yeah, so things going a different way. I could have been playing a grand final in my 7th match, but it wasn't to be, and ultimately I'd never play in one. But,
who was the coach in '98, mate?
David Waite.
That's right.
Yeah. He put me on with about 12 minutes to go, and scoring tries was always sort of my go. And he said, "Mate, just get out there and score me a couple of tries," which I failed to do. But what a thrill! 3rd game ever playing in the semi-final. It was
fantastic.
Great memories.
Well, just on that, you mentioned the West Tigers, and in your first game there, you scored 3 tries and kicked 4 goals. With those type of performances, they probably wanted to put a statue of you up at Leichhardt.
Yeah, well, that was at Campbelltown, actually, and it was a pretty strange week because Matt Sears was he'd just been playing for New South Wales or something like that, and remarkably, even though I'd played well in the trials, I think I scored 3 tries in all 3 trials, and I still never thought I'd get picked because I was the last player picked into the squad, and ultimately Wayne Pearce picked me. Matty Sears was quite public about the fact that, he should have been there and not me, which put a lot of pressure on me. It was in the papers and those sorts of things. So all week I was that nervous. But then I'd been nervous for so long that come the drive out to Campbelltown on that particular day, I think it was a Saturday, I thought, you know what, I can't get any more nervous. The nerves were gone and I knew it was going to be my day. We played the Broncos they were the all-concrete, some say the best Broncos of all time, 2000. They won the comp in a gallop in the end, and to go out there, it was just one of those days where the cape got put on, everything went my way. And Fox came out after that week, and what they do, they had Boo Bailey, I think it was, or one of the great cartoonists each week would draw a caricature. And their week 1 player of the week was me, like a young tiger juggling 3 footballs representing the 3 tries. So, life just changed in a heartbeat within about 7 days.
You were the leading point scorer that year, weren't you, mate?
I was, yeah. That was pretty special. I remember it was getting quite close towards the end of the year, and Darryl Halligan had won this award many, many times. There was probably about 2 or 3 rounds to go, and I just knew I had to get him off my shoulders. I may have been leading by, say, 4 or 6 or something. And in the first half, I've scored a try, I've kicked 4 goals, and beauty, I've put a gap on the great Darryl Halligan. So whilst everyone's thinking about the score, Darryl Halligan and I are thinking about the
points.
top point scorer. And he's since come out and said that he was thinking about the same thing. And so now I lead by 16 or something like that. And in the second half, he scores 14 unanswered points. So I'll leave the round only two in front of him. But fortunately, we played Melbourne, I think, in the last round. I scored a couple and kicked 3 or 4 goals, and that was enough to sort of see me get over the line.
With the media side of things, and you mentioned a little bit before, was that always a plan going from football into media, or you just sort of fell into it?
Yeah, media was something that was always sort of something that I took to. I remember I went to a school it must have been about 1990, 1991, and I was in year 6, and we had about 10 kids go to the school. This was a little town called Newbridge outside of Blaney, and of the 10 kids, half of them were my family, It was a town of only 80 people. And for whatever reason, I don't know why, but I always had a fascination with the Melbourne Cup. My parents don't not like it, but they never loved horse racing. But for me, and I still don't know why this sort of occurred, but maybe it was back in the day. Remember Wild World of Sports? They crossed to the races, Kenny Callender would be out there.
Kenny Gibbo and Chappelli.
Yeah, so they'd be covering all sorts of sports, and they'd whip out to Caulfield or Randwick or wherever it may be. And I think I used to just get caught up in all that. And so this particular day, Melbourne Cup Day, I think it was 1990 or 1991, I do remember that Sedestin was the top weight. So I had all the kids dressed up in the school, which is all 10 of them, and had them marked around the 400-metre track, and with little bibs on with the colours I'd made up of the silks, and I had this orange witch's hat. I'd stay in the middle with the cricket with the cricket pitch and commentate the Melbourne Cup, and around. Then they come. Sedestin leads by 2 lengths. Volante starting to come into it. Not that Volante was running back in those times, but you get my gist. And my sister was in kindergarten, so she started 100 metres out. The other kid in year 6, who was the school captain, there was 2 people in year 6. I couldn't even get the school captaincy, right? And he'd run around, and that's what I do. And I was always phantom calling Melbourne Cups and grand finals and all those sorts of things from the age I can actually remember.
And you're very good at it, mate, too.
Thank you.
Now, you've also gone on to have your own morning radio show, Breakfast with Joel and Jimmy. What's the early starts like?
You know what? It's funny how life works. I've just got used to the early starts, and I'm actually liking the early starts. So when I first started, you'd rush home and you're hoping that, the wifey's not home, or so you could sneak off and just have a bit of a nap during the day, right? But now I'm actually fine. I'm really enjoying it. And as soon as you get used to it, well, we're actually moving now I'll move to 1170, SEN 1170 in Sydney to host a drive show with Fletch. So I think Fletcher's comments were that...
Geez, that could be a bit wild with Fletch.
That'll be very wild. His comments were in the press release were something like, Joel's a little left of centre and I'm a lot of left of centre. So it's going to be a wild ride, but it'll be fun. And you know what? It's a drive shift. So I think at that time, you've got to have a bit of fun. People have worked their backsides off all day and, we'll just have a bit of fun. Jimmy will go to the evening shift. He'll be there from 6 to 9.
That's
with Fletch, who's in control of the dump button on the panel there?
Well, firstly, no one will be in control of anything. It'll just be a loose ride.
That's right.
Yeah, but we'll need someone there with the dump button, not to dump on the listeners or the call, I'd say.
Yes. Mate, and also you're the face of Sportsbet. How did that come about?
Well, that's, as I said, that was related to the Matt trip. He just needed someone to fill in for one day. Back in, it was 2009, April Fool's Day. And they sent the greatest fool of all, me, in to represent their brand. And they can't get rid of me. I'm still there.
Still there. Excellent.
To all our KRGS Doors podcast listeners, do yourself a favour and get on the Sportsbet podcast.
Get them on side, it's called.
With Joel Caine, Dan Ganane, and Sean the Trader. It is one of the best, if not the best, podcasts on the planet. You've got to do yourself a favour. Get there. Wednesday is my highlights because that podcast comes on with Matty Johns' podcast. So
right.
I just
knock them both out, do you?
Yeah, mate. Yeah, on the way home from touch footy training on a Wednesday night.
Yes.
And just put that on and away we go.
That's good.
But mate, the banter between you and Dan, mate. Dan's one of my favourites.
Yeah, he's a genius.
But it's really, mate, it's a fantastic show to listen to.
He's a great fella, Dan. You sort of make up perceptions of people until you know him. I've really come to like Dan, and he rang me up the other night. One of us is having a drink or two. We'll ring the other bloke and have a laugh. He's a good fella. He's a soul of the earth bloke. There's no airs and graces about him, and that's the sort of people we want to knock around with.
100%. And he was good when he was on Triple M calling. He's good on Fox, but he's even better on the podcast with you when you just take the piss out of each other.
You're good man. That's very kind. I appreciate that.
Mate, away from work, how do you relax?
How do I relax? I tell you, we don't often get to relax. Quite often, not quite often, not often enough, I should say, but the wife and I don't mind going to the movies, watching the movies and having a few beverages. If we can sneak into those gold classes once save a few pennies and go into the gold class movies, we don't mind that. Midweek, and maybe get someone to pick the kids up. Occasionally we try and do things like that just to, if we could do that once a month, that's a win.
Midweek, duck down there on Tight Ass Tuesday or something like that?
We're not smart enough for that. We generally go like on a Wednesday or something after the podcast. So we need to probably work out the Tight Ass Tuesday action.
There you go, mate.
Now, mate, to finish off the podcast, we ask our guests our Fast Five, which are just rapid fire, just to get to know you a little bit better.
Yeah,
what would be your last meal?
My last meal, without doubt, would be my dad came up with this, he calls it Southern Fried Chicken, and doused in gravy, mashed potato, veggies. My kids now love it. All my siblings love it. That's the go-to meal for our family.
That does sound like a good
Corn.
meal.
You must have corn.
Corn as well?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a must.
That does sound like a good meal. Your drink of choice?
Alcoholic drink.
Either or?
You know what? I probably don't mind as I'm getting a bit older. A glass of red. One or two glasses of red, I suppose.
That's a sign of maturity, Shug.
That's right. I need to back off the beers, actually, because I've got to lose a few kilos. Jimmy's got me into this bloody Bikram yoga. Jeez, that's hard, let me tell you. Don't knock it till you try it, boys.
Sweats it out of you?
Oh, sweats it out of you. There's not one part that's easy about it, but I had this stigma about it. Like Jimmy said, he goes to Bikram yoga. And I'm thinking, what are you doing? Anyway, fast track 7 days after I've gone there for the first time. Here I am today charging in with my pink roller mat or whatever they bloody call it, yoga mat. And that was my daughter's one, by the way, so I have to get my own mat now. It's got me. I'm in.
Are you in training, mate, for State Cup 2020?
The answer's no, but I should and will do soon.
Look forward to it.
Just referring that, so the listeners know, Joel is a superstar down at Cronulla Touch. He played in the over 40s. I think they had to check his birth certificate, just over 40s last year at State Cup. Still a flying winger. Looked a treat up there, mate.
Couldn't compete with you blokes.
He couldn't be too much flying, mate, because he had to mark me.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
It's a fantastic weekend for Touch, mate, as you know, and you're a part of it there with Cronulla.
Yeah,
but
I'm actually hosting.
Hosting?
Yeah, I'm actually hosting the New South Wales Touch Awards this.
Oh, that's on this Saturday.
Year. This is on this Saturday. Yeah. So, look, I know you blokes might be in the mix, but guess what? I'm the one who reads it out. So, if I accidentally say the Sharks over 40s, well.
You reckon you could be team of the year, mate, from third place?
Yeah, that's right. Absolute moral. You guys won in the county. You were way too good. Well done.
That semi-final, mate, we had against you, that was probably our hardest game, I reckon. That was harder than that was, for me personally, that was harder the game than the grand final.
Okay, right. No, we've improved. We're a long way from matching it with you blokes, but anyway, there you go.
We'll be right.
Was that the hardest game for you because you had to mark up on Joel?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, good call.
I was shitting myself. I didn't want him on the outside of me, and yeah, absolutely.
Well, the best part about that, I don't get the ball, so you're safe as a
you, mate. You were screaming for the ball. You were swapping out Dave. Give me. You just wanted to get in the middle. Just wanted to get a touch of the ball at least.
Oh, they hate it. I try and get in there and muck up their sets. They like to just be real structured, which I always say, well, boys, we've never won it doing it your way. Let's just do it my way. Let's just go berserko and just throw it all out.
I must be honest. When you went infield, I was much happier.
Yeah, no, I need to get a bit fitter. My daughter has this clip of me. She loves the touch, the oldest one, of me scoring a try. And at the time, I felt like I was Josh Addo-Carr. But when you watch it back, I'm more Georgie Rose.
You were on the treadmill?
I was on the treadmill. So she quite often shows me that clip. And, I want to be a bit fitter this time around.
What about the clip, mate? It's actually one of my favourites. It's probably your least favourite. Leichhardt Oval.
I know which one you're going to say. I bet you I know what you're going to say.
Leichhardt Oval?
It's not Leichhardt Oval. No, it's not Leichhardt Oval. Everyone thinks it's Leichhardt Oval. And I know what you're going to say because about once a year, and I generally blame Andrew Voss for this, my phone just goes ding, 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 all these text messages come through because Vossi has shown a particular clip. Are we thinking about the same thing?
No. Mine is Leichhardt Oval with the great Nathan Tinger, Blacklock, chipping over your head.
That was Leichhardt Oval. My apologies.
Chipping over your head to win the game.
I know. It didn't get picked. Everyone thought at that moment he did the somersault, and everyone thought at that moment, and he's actually my favourite player, Nathan Blacklock, to think that he was on his way to the New South Wales side.
Yeah.
How did he not get picked?
I have no idea, mate. It was excitement.
But everyone loves that clip for some reason. But I mean, what are you to do? Like your instinct is to chase the ball to save the game. Terry Lamb said, I just should have went bang and took him out.
Ellery Hanley style.
The person I blame is bloody John Simon, our halfback that day, and no one ever mentions this. There's about 3 minutes to go, and I think we're leading by 2, right? And we have the ball in the halfway on the last tackle. Johnny Simon goes for a frigging field goal. Like, to go up by 50 metres out, they get the ball, shift. black lock chips over my head, and the rest is history.
What was the clip you were talking about, mate, that Vossi put up?
Oh, no, the goal kick.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'll tell you. So what happened there? So if you get the opportunity to YouTube worst 5 kicks ever in the NRL, I think I'm a bit robbed, actually. I'm number 5. I think it's worth at least top 3. Anyway, I actually, people don't know this, but when I kicked it was into the breeze, and people forget how close your foot every kick goes to the ground. And so I tried to kick a bit harder, and I jammed my foot into the turf of Campbelltown Stadium, and the ball just trickled along. It was the worst kick. Anyway, I go to the sideline. I took the catch off the kickoff, and I knew I had to get off the field. So I would never, ever take a hit up off the kickoff, but I did on this occasion. Got tackled, immediately grabbed my shoulder, went, my shoulder's gone, right? Because I had to get off the field with this crook foot. So they take me off, and I couldn't clearly come off with an injury from goal kicking. No one's ever been replaced after hurting themselves from a goal kick.
Turf toe.
So I come off the field, and Andrew Leeds, the trainer, rushes over, puts some ice pack on my shoulder. I said, no, it's nothing wrong with my shoulder, Leeds. I said, put it on my ankle. I hurt my ankle with the kick, and he laughed. Anyway, the Fox commentary crew come around, and as they do with the injured player, to check on the injury, and I see them coming over. I said, Leedsy, quick, put the ice pack back on my shoulder. So he puts the ice pack back on my shoulder, and in the big league, it said Joel Caine out 6 weeks, shoulder injury, right? But little do they know, it was actually from doing the kick. I was out for 6 weeks after hurt me
goal kick
with a bad kick. Yeah.
Mate, who is the most famous person's phone number you have in your phone?
Ooh. That's a good question. I'll probably Donald Trump, maybe. He'd be in the photo finish. Oprah Winfrey. No, I don't know. Probably Robbo, actually. Trent Robbo.
He's a good man, Robbo.
Trent Robinson, Jim Cassidy. Who's more famous out of those two?
Oh, it'd be a toss-up.
Oh. If you ask the pumper, he'd say himself.
You know what? Ian Craig. I used to love Ian Craig using my phone.
Yeah.
Ray Warren.
The Rabbi.
Yeah, does he go past those two?
Oh, Rabs is out in front, well and truly.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably Rabs, I suppose.
What is one of your weird quirks?
Oh, you would have been. I'm a very quirky dude, boys. It might have been easy to ask.
What's not quirky?
What's a quirk for me? I'm a little bit OCD-ish, I suppose. A little bit. I used to be more OCD-ish, but let me come back to you. Not such a quick 5, is it?
It's a long, drawn-out 5.
It's all good. It's all good. That makes the best part. And finally,
you know what I would say is a quirk, which is an advantage. I don't. I think I handle nerves very well. I don't get flustered that easy. Like these State of Origin nights, say they're doing a cross and 3 million people there, whatever. I don't seem to. I think I've got a good temperament for high pressure things.
You handle it pretty good, mate. Under pressure.
So.
Yeah, absolutely. You don't show it.
No, and I even think back to my career. Like I wasn't the greatest goal kicker, but if it meant something in the kick, look, if I had to absolutely nail it, I think that I generally got it. I think that pressure is a good thing for me. Would be my quirky thing.
Sounds good.
Man of Steel.
No, definitely not Man of Steel.
Mate, and finally, if heaven does exist, what would God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
I think what I think he'd say. I think he'd say, mate, you deserve it. I think you've treated people kind over the years, and you've treated people how you'd like to be treated. So, where would you like to sit? Grab a seat.
Grab a beer.
By no means perfect, but I think if we're getting judged upon how we treat people, I think that I should be welcome.
Absolutely.
No, that sounds good.
Sugar, mate, I know you're short of time, mate. I really appreciate you coming on and have a chat.
No worries, gentlemen. Anytime.
Yeah, we will take you up on that, mate. We will do it again, absolutely. Mate, good luck with all the with the radio show. Look forward to it, mate. Driving home at an afternoon. I won't listen to a podcast now. I'll be able to listen to
live
to Sugar and Fletch. That'll be good. But, mate,
Yeah,
keep
that's
that
it.
up. Keep that up. And, mate, the podcast, love listening to it. Say hello to the boys and really appreciate you coming on and having a chat to us.
No worries. Good to chat, man, and well done on the business and keep on going, eh?
Thanks, Shug.
Thanks, mate. Take care. Cheers, buddy.
Take care, mate. Be good.
Hooroo.
Cheers.
Adios.
That wraps up our 21st episode and our chat with Joel Caine, former footy player, now media superstar. If you want to hear more of Joel, tune into 1170 SEN between 3 and 6 weekdays for Drive with Joel and Fletch. If you've missed any previous episodes of the KRGS Doors podcast, you can download them from our website, www.krgsdoors.com.au/podcasts, or on your favourite podcast player, search KRGS Doors. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button to ensure you don't miss any future episodes. This also boosts our ranking and my ego. The other thing I suggest, if you've enjoyed the podcast, visit your favourite podcast player and leave a review or a rating. On our next episode, we speak to Steve Philp, stand-up comedian and television host. We find out how he got started in the business, his worst gigs, and what other comedians are really like. I've been your host, Drew Blackman, and you've been fantastic for tuning in today. As always, you could be anywhere in the world, but you're here with us. Thanks. Till next time. The KRGS Doors Show, proudly brought to you by KRGS Doors. For all your shopfront roller shutters, roller grills, folding closures and bifold doors, visit www.krgsdoors.com.au.